Hello and welcome back. Now in this video, let's set up database. Okay, let's create a database and then connect our Laravel project to that database. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is open up the MySQL database. I'm using SQL Pro. Okay, so I'm going to use the username of root. Make sure you have this host 127.0.0.1. Okay, username, root, password. I'm not going to use any password. Let's try connect. Okay, that works. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new database from here. So choose database. I have the existing database here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new one. So I click on this one, add database, and I name it Lara blog. Great. Now we have database. All we need to do is connect it. Okay, so let's go to our project and go straight into environment folder, env, and here you want to change these credentials. Okay, so the database, we're not using homestead, you're using Lara blog. Username is root and there is no password, so let's get rid of this. That's it. Once you save, we're ready to start working with database. Awesome. The first thing I want to do, and a very exciting thing you can do with Laravel framework, that is building authentication. Here, let's go back to the way it was. Okay, so this is awesome. This is the view of welcome.blade.php, right? This is the page being rendered, and you must have noticed this .blade.php file. Okay, so this is the Blade templating system. It is the default templating system with Laravel, and to use this we always have to make sure to use .blade.php. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, since we have database connection already done, we're going to run a couple of terminal commands that will do magic for us. Okay, so that's one of the great thing about Laravel. You can run some command line code and then get a lot of things done, such as authentication. Okay, so imagine if you had to build authentication login system on your own, how long it would take. But in Laravel it takes few seconds. So we haven't even learned the very basics, but don't worry, this we'll put it on side, and then later on we will cover all this. Okay, so in the beginning, having this login and registration makes really easy later on to scale our application. Okay, so we will be learning, and at the same time we will be building. All right, so let's do this. So inside this Lara blog folder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a couple of commands. So what you can do is you can run these commands. PHP artisan command you can run in Laravel. Now if you just do PHP artisan and hit enter, you see all these commands are available. So we can change the app name, we can seed the database, okay, we can generate a new key, we can make the authentication, we can make middlewares, we can migrate, refresh, all these commands. Now you might not have any idea what they're going to do and why do we need them, right? So let's not worry about it. The only thing I want to do right now is create the authentication system, and the command I'm going to run is make auth. Okay, so scaffold basic login and registration views and routes. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So PHP artisan make auth, simple as that. Now authentication scaffolding generated successfully. Okay, let's have a look at that. Okay, so before we didn't have this folder, you must have noticed, but now we have, because we just created the authentication. Okay, so it has the login page, it has register page, it has password resets, and all that stuff. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. So it's basically a bootstrap style page. Okay, so it has all these input fields for email. If there's error, we show the errors. It has password, all that stuff. Okay, so this can be intimidating to you, so don't worry about this one, we will come back to it. Okay, so since we have generated this authentication, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to migrate, because even though we have generated, it generates the view templates and it generates the migration. Okay, so this is how Laravel communicates with the database. It has this thing called migrations. Okay, so if you go to the migration, we have these two files have been generated. One's for users table, one's for password resets table. Okay, so let's have a look at this user table. So it creates this schema called users. Okay, so now this users will have all these fields in the database. Okay, so it will have the auto incrementing ID, it will have the name, email, password, and remember token. So all this will be created when we run a command, php artisan migrate command, that will create a users table in the database with all these fields. We specify what we want to do. Probably in the next video we're going to build our own blog system. So we will create a blog model and we will create the schema step by step. Okay, so that time it will make perfect sense. So this is just the basic overview. Okay, so this is the users table. It has passwords resets table as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply run this, and then we will be covering all this in the next video. Okay, so don't stress. This is just to have a very good starting point for our application, because this really makes a lot of sense later down the road. Okay, so we have the authentication. All we need to do is we need to run this. Okay, so php artisan migrate. With this command, once this command runs, it runs the migration, it creates all these tables in database. Okay, so let's have a look in the database. Refresh, and as you can see we have users table, password resets, and migrations. Okay, so all the migrations will be running will be here. Okay, the password resets will have email field, token, and created at, and the users will have the ID, name, email, password, and all this stuff. Now if you go to the home directory and refresh, we see nothing because we deleted the content of this page. But if you go to login, as you can see we have the login system in place. How cool is that? Okay, so we have login, we have registration, and it works. Okay, so let's try creating one. Let's create one. Okay, so you're logged in and you can see your name here, you can log out. Awesome. So this is the basic authentication system ready for us to use thanks to Laravel. If this video didn't make any sense, don't worry. The sole purpose of this video was to be able to show you how you can create authentication system. Okay, you don't need to understand any of that because we're going to do all that from scratch. Okay, so before I end this video, let me quickly search Eloquent. Getting started. Okay, so the Eloquent ORM included with Laravel provides a beautiful, simple, active record implementation for working with your database. Okay, so this is the key. Each database table has a corresponding model which is used to interact with that table. Okay, this is the most important thing you need to understand. So what happened here, when we created this user migration, the user model also has been created, which is inside this app folder. Okay, so and we will be spending most of our time inside this app folder, inside HTTP controllers. Okay, this is where we will be using most of our time. Now as you can see, inside this app folder we have this user model has been created. Okay, so it has this protected fields that are fillable. We have to define in the database like name, email, and password. As you can see, these fields, name, email, and password, we have to set it to fillable. Okay, it protects from the mass assignment. Okay, so that's one good thing with Laravel. And now that we have already created a user, if you refresh, you should be able to see a new user. Okay, so password has been hashed, all that stuff. Okay, so that's great. We're going to do all this from scratch. Okay, so I just want you to keep this thing in mind. Each database table has a corresponding model. In our case, users table have the corresponding model called user, which is used to interact with that table. Okay, if you also notice another thing, this field, this table is called users, our model is called user. Okay, and but the schema has users. So by default, whenever you create a model, you create a corresponding table for that model in a plural form. Okay, so by default, Laravel uses so for user, it will be users. For blog, it will be blogs. Okay, so if you want to create a separate name, separate database table, you have to explicitly write down in your model and specify that you want to create a separate table. Okay, so we're going to cover that as well in later down the road. Okay, so for the moment, this is it. Okay, it must have been a bit too much for you because you're just beginning, but so far all we covered is creating a simple route, returning a simple view, and then we just run the authentication command that we could thanks to Laravel. Okay, so this has been kind of a crash course, but from next video we're going to take a step-by-step approach and everything will start to make perfect sense. All right, so I will see you in the very next video. Thank you.